Fridays. My name is Jane and I am one of your Summer 2021 STEM instructors with Creative Encounters with Science. In today's video, we are going to be exploring the levels of the atmosphere using a liquid density lab experiment that you can do at home. Okay, so there's a couple things that you'll need in order to do this experiment. Some oil, canola, or vegetable will work best. Some dish soap, corn syrup, honey, some water, a tall clear jar so we can see our layers, some food coloring, a funnel to help pour our liquids, and a marker and some sticky notes to label our layers. Let's get started. So the atmosphere is the outer gas layer that surrounds the Earth. This layer protects the Earth and controls its temperature. The atmosphere is made up of 5 layers, and we are going to demonstrate those layers in our jar with 5 different liquids, all of different densities. The first layer that we're going to look at is the troposphere. The troposphere is the first layer of the atmosphere, the one that is closest to the Earth, and is about 10 kilometers in length. The troposphere contains the clouds, and the weather we experience on Earth occurs in this layer. The troposphere also contains the air that living things need to survive. So we're going to represent the troposphere with honey, our most dense liquid. I've put some in a bowl just to make it easier to pour, and all I'm going to do is pour it into my jar, trying not to touch the sides of the jar. The next layer in the atmosphere is the stratosphere. The stratosphere extends from between 10 kilometers to 50 kilometers above sea level. The stratosphere contains the ozone layer, which protects the Earth from ultraviolet rays from the sun. For the stratosphere layer, we are going to be using corn syrup, our next most dense liquid. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that into my jar. The next layer in the atmosphere is the mesosphere. The mesosphere extends from about 50 kilometers to 85 kilometers above sea level. The mesosphere is the coldest layer in the atmosphere, and if you've ever seen a shooting star, that shooting star would have been in the mesosphere. For the mesosphere, we are going to be using dish soap, our third most dense liquid. I'm going to go ahead and pour that into my jar. The next layer in the atmosphere is the thermosphere. The thermosphere extends from about 85 kilometers to 500 kilometers above sea level. The thermosphere is the warmest layer in the atmosphere and contains the International Space Station. To represent the thermosphere, I'm going to be using water that I've dyed pink using my food coloring. I'm going to go ahead and pour that into my jar, again, very slowly. The last layer in the atmosphere is the exosphere. The exosphere ranges from 500 kilometers to 10,000 kilometers above sea level. The exosphere contains the thinnest air of all the layers because it contains mostly hydrogen and helium. The exosphere is also where satellites orbit. To represent the exosphere, we're going to be using canola oil. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that into my jar. So now that we've finished pouring in all of our substances, we see that we're left with a really pretty rainbow pattern in our jar. So the reason we can still see the different layers, despite having poured in multiple different substances, is because each layer is made up of a different substance with a different density. Density is a measure of how much matter there is in a given amount of space. So the average density of an object can be defined as its total mass divided by its total volume. Density describes how tightly packed the particles that make up any substance are. Particles in a substance with a lower density are more spaced out, whereas there is less space in between particles in a more dense substance. In our experiment, we see that honey, corn syrup, and dish soap are all more dense than water, which is why they have settled below the red water layer, whereas the canola oil is less dense than water. Thus, its particles are less tightly packed and it floats on top of the water. In the same way that the substances that we have layered here get less and less dense as we move up the layers, that is also the case with the layers of the atmosphere. The troposphere is the most dense layer because the air particles in this layer are the most tightly packed. That is partly due to the fact that all of the other layers are resting on top of it. The density of the layers decreases as we move upward in the atmosphere and away from the Earth. So, we see that we have created a colorful model of the layers of the atmosphere. Thanks so much everyone for joining us on our first Fun Friday of the summer. We'll see you next week.